Hi, how's everyone doing? We pray that you're having a blessed summer so far. Here it is a little different, but we're embracing it because it's going to be hot soon, but really still cool at night. Wearing sweaters, things like that. We were in Mammoth last week. If anyone lives in California and wants a trip that is, you can be cheap or expensive, Mammoth. We fell in love with it. We brought our bikes, and so didn't have to pay that. We did bike riding 7 miles, 5 miles, hiking, hike to a lake. Our hotel, which Matt got a great deal. I think he should be a travel agent, but on Hotwire, but it had a heated pool and spa.
Wow.
So here's my little advertisement for parents. Did you ever plan hikes, picnics on the lake, to show your kids to see national parks? And then they would say, when are we going to go back to the pool and the gym? We should have just gone to a hotel in the desert that had a pool and a gym. But I thought that was so funny because no matter what stage it is, when you're taking your family on vacation, there's always goofy things that will happen or stories, or I don't think they appreciate it till later. I remember telling my parents the very first road trip we took the kids on, the first 12 hours were horrific. And I text my mom, how did you ever do this? This is so hard. But this show is, I think, near and dear to our heart, and we hope you will love it too. And whether you're a mom, an aspiring mom, a grandma, even an aunt, or someone that just loves kids, listen to this show with an open heart and open mind, and know that we wanted to do this show to encourage you. It is called Your Calling as a Mom. However, if you are all polished and put together, which guess what? I didn't even get to get my nails done or do anything with them, so I'm not at all. But if you're polished and put together and your days just flow, nothing ever goes wrong at all, and you are just going through life in a breezy way, smile on your face 24/7, more power to you. But
You don't need this show.
no. This show's not for you. I don't know if any of our shows are for you. Just kidding. But that's really not reality. It's not. So we would think and pray and hope that this show would be encouragement, just like other people say, like and share it. But that's our heart, is that this show would encourage you. But your calling as a mom is a holy calling. It really is. And I don't say that lightly. I say that because if you go right back to Genesis, like we talked about a couple of shows ago, God created Adam, God created Eve, God said be fruitful and multiply, and it has been happening ever since. But God doesn't just leave us hanging. We read about such beautiful examples of motherhood in the Bible. We read about different families and how Sarah had to just leave her own family and go where God called Abraham, and what it looked like for her to build a nation, and that God used this holy man and woman that were not perfect at all, but to build a nation, and what it would look like for them to stand on God's word and to live by godly standards. And women are still doing that today, except it looks like me living in Oak Hills and Wendy living in Victorville and homeschooling our children, or sending them to school and praying at the flagpole and praying every minute, and praying as they're at camp a week or so ago, and VBS, that they are a light, that our kids aren't concerned so much about being in a clique, but that they're concerned about being kind, that it's okay with them not to be cussing, but that they would be one that could speak, like Ephesians 4:29 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up and encouraging others. Being a mother that is called by God looks like being on your knees and showing your kids that you can apologize, but showing your kids that you trust God for miracles. And if that miracle doesn't happen right then, it will. Because God is still a God of miracles, and He is a God that answers our prayers, that hears us. But showing our kids that we live our life as an act of worship, but that we live in it too. That we know how to, well, not all the time, but that in our painful situations, we still trust God. That in our trials, we still trust God. So your calling as a mother is a big, huge, important role. Don't ever forget it.
Our calling as a mom is going to look different
Yeah.
in every stage that we take. But the one overarching thing that I was thinking of, care.
Yeah.
Mothers, take care. And so that's going to look a little different when you're pregnant. You're taking your vitamins, you're going to the doctor and all of that. When you have a newborn, you're feeding, you're changing diapers, you're getting them to sleep, you're getting them to sleep on your schedule.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to help them figure out their rhythm. And when they get to toddler, preschool, young elementary, you're starting to teach the things about God in a more solid way. You're reading them the Bible, you know, you're helping them to memorize their verses, you're taking them to church on a regular basis to show them that that's something that our family does to stand apart. Your calling as a mother is to care in every situation, and then as
every stage.
teenagers,
every stage.
when you have teenagers, then it's going to look even more different because they're more independent. But that you've built all of this from infancy on, maybe they come to you now for answers. You know, my kids will ask me, they'll ask me the Bible question first because, one, I'm the only one home to ask it of.
Yeah.
And so when I have an answer for them right away, or I know where to find the answer quickly and get to it, they're like, wow, Mom, that was so helpful.
Yes.
You know, and so they start to learn that Mom's a good source.
Yes.
Mom's a good source for information. Mom's a good source for prayer. You know,
and when you've made that normal, like when you've made that normal throughout their whole life, and you say care, and that's in every stage, in every life stage, but it's not normal for every family or for every child to be in a house with someone that cares. And that's why I want you to remember that this show and your calling as a mom is really not for the faint of heart. It's for the warriors, because being a mother, you are a warrior. You are fighting for your family. You are fighting that the enemy stays far from your family and far from your children and far from their walk and far from your marriage, and that no weapon formed against your children will stand because you will not allow it. And so you cannot be faint of heart. You can't let just every little thing get you down. You can't be sobbing because the dog throws up on the new carpet, or your shoe gets a stain on it from someone spilling spaghetti sauce, or your son gets a sprained ankle the day before camp, which happened to us. You know me well, you know, because I've told you, and it was crazy, and I didn't know whether to send him. But those are things that happen, and you can't predict it, and you can't plan it. But your kids are watching you.
And you can't throw up your hands either.
No, and say, oh my gosh, like you put the cover over your head.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have we wanted to do that in the day? I wondered sometimes what it would look like not to get up for the whole day. We can, that would be fine. You know, we're not going to go to hell for that, but but I don't choose that. I don't want to. And I really don't think everything would fall apart without me, but I look at every opportunity, whatever that looks like, whether it's a conversation or teaching something to one of my kids or even giving them a ride, whatever that is. I know God's using me in this.
Yes.
Right? You stay in it. There was a girl that I worked with years ago, and she had wanted to be a mom and she wasn't, but she had ended up telling me that she became a mom because her sister left. She didn't want to do it anymore, and she ended up that she was the one that was going to raise the teenage boys. I don't know what ended up happening with that story, but I do know for a couple years I really just prayed over her and with her, because when you are called by God to be a mom, whether you are biologically or you have adopted or foster or whatever that looks like, you stay. Like, you show those kids that they never are going to have the feeling of abandonment because you leave. So staying is holy. It really is. I mean, we've talked before about, what does righteousness look like? Well, righteousness looks like one foot in front of the other, putting one right foot in front of the other. Well, that's what it looks like when you have a calling as a mother too. You stay in the hard. You stay in the hard moments of parenting. You stay when your kid says, I hate you, or when they're crying, or when they have colic, or when they haven't called you and you're the only one, you know, messaging or sending pictures or checking in or things like that, and or when the relationship seems broken. You still stay and you trust God because He allowed you in the first place to be the mother over that child. You stay. You look at it as a blessing. You look at it like an opportunity. You look at every challenge and hardship as a way to honor God and a way to grow to grow in your faith. Our stories can relate to other people. Really, like when we go through things, we don't realize that we're not just going through it. Our kids are going through it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just going through it. Other people are looking at us.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing how we handle it. Nieces and nephews are looking to see how we handle it. Siblings, aunts and uncles,
In-laws.
everybody.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when we twist our eyesight and the way that we view things and our perspective, we will not look at it as trials and challenges and hardships. We will look at it as blessings and opportunities and ways for our faith to grow and ways for our kids' faith to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yep, our calling as a mother, like I said, starts. It's all through life where you're caring for your child, and even the Apostle Paul, when he was writing to Timothy, in 2 Timothy 3:14, he said, "But as for you, continue in what you have learned and have become convinced of, because you know those from who you learned it." Mom and grandma.
Yes.
It says it in
I love him.
another part of Timothy. "And how from infancy, you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Christ Jesus." So we're not supposed to just sit, you birth these kids and you just sit back and let them grow.
Yeah.
And let them figure out and find Jesus on their own. That's not scriptural whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because if you know the truth, you are guiding them, you are leading them, you are giving them everything that you've learned and helping them find even more things that they can learn on their own about the Lord.
And if you love Jesus, if it is if he is your life and you have accepted him in your heart and you have salvation, then what you should want is to look like him each and every day. And that means you love like him, and you loving like him and looking like him. You are teaching that to your children, to love like him and look like him wherever they are. And that's a high calling, because that is a trickle effect. Just like sin is a negative and dark trickle effect, the love of you being close to Jesus, being connected to him like the vine that we are supposed to be on the vine, we are showing our kids what that looks like in this world. So that way, things that are hard in this world for our kids are not going to be as hard.
Yeah.
And people will look at our children, just like our last show said, as people that stand alone and stand different, but in a positive way. Yeah, they might get attacked for their faith, but okay. That is a great reason to be attacked, that they're going to be attacked for standing on biblical principles and values, but it starts with you. Do you treat your children well? Do you speak to them kindly? Do you give them words of encouragement? What does it look like in your house or at your table, or when you ask them to do things? Are you thankful that they've done it or done chores? Or if they don't do it perfectly, do you scream at them? Or on the field? Enough said. All of us have seen it, but that's not good. These are kids. I mean, I don't know when this became so popular or acceptable to scream at kids on the field, but they're kids. So that is not fulfilling your calling as a mother, to be screaming at your kids or thinking that they are some like prize or trophy when they're on the field and just playing a sport. That's really what it is that they're playing a sport. It's supposed to be fun. Some of your calling as a mother. Oh, I did want to read this verse that I've been trying to memorize, but it's not quite memorized yet. But I do love it. So I think everybody should memorize it. A house is built on wisdom, and it becomes strong through understanding. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. That is Proverbs 24, 3-4. So as a mother, you are building your house on wisdom. You are building your house on understanding. That's giving grace. That is understanding when your kids mess up. That's having grace for you, so your kids could see that you would apologize. Oh yeah, I shouldn't have watched that show. Okay, do over.
Right.
Grace for the next day. It says in Lamentations 3:23, his mercies are new every morning. So what are those rare, beautiful treasures? You might read this, you might be new to reading the Bible and think, I don't know what rare and beautiful treasures that I would see if my house is built on wisdom and understanding. Those rare and beautiful treasures are a bond with your children. Those rare and beautiful treasures are having joy when it makes no sense. Those rare and beautiful treasures are laughing at your dinner table because you've made it a point that your family is at least going to eat together, 3 or 4 days a week, whether that's breakfast, dinner, whatever it is. Those rare and beautiful treasures are seeing your kids do things that you've taught them, but you don't have to say it because they're just doing it. You've said it so many times. Those rare and beautiful treasures are a Christian song that one of your kids sends you. Instead of you doing that all those times, you have laid the groundwork. You've cried, prayed, ask God, I want them so badly to live the way that you called them to, but it doesn't seem to be working. But those rare and beautiful treasures are seeing evidence of that God will show you. I hear you. I see your prayers. I see what you're doing. And it is a treasure. Teaching your kids to tithe, and they don't think they need to tithe their chore money or birthday money or all those things. And then my oldest, I see him with his little envelope after he starts getting his first paychecks. Seeing the evidence of that is rare. And it's rare because it might not happen all the time and every day and every second of the day.
And it might not happen under your roof.
No.
Once they move out, maybe. But
yes.
Yeah, seeing it before they go.
It's a treasure.
Yeah.
Just remember that. Yeah. And look for them. Part of your calling is to teach them about Jesus, to guide, to have structure in your home, to love, to lead by example, to have tasks that they know how to do because you're teaching them. There was a parent I talked to years ago. She just didn't teach her kids to even make their bed or put away their clothes. She did everything. I know she loved her kids, but it doesn't teach your kids responsibility. And you're raising spoiled children by doing that. Don't do that. Teach them. Teach them to be a part of your household.
Yeah, and rooting for them for their spouse.
Yes. Nurturing them, but in other ways, not where you're doing everything. Be there. Listen. Be present. Show your children how to love their dad. And show the fruits of the Spirit in your daily life.
Amen. Yeah, I had that written down too, kind of the fruits of the Spirit. But there is a list from 2 Peter chapter 1 that I wanted to read, and if I can get there quickly enough. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. Sorry, not verse 3. Verse 5. For this reason, make every effort to add your faith goodness, to goodness knowledge, to knowledge self-control, self-control perseverance, to perseverance godliness, to godliness brotherly kindness, and a brotherly kindness love. So you're giving your kids, it feels like a lot, like I'm giving you this big list, but faith. You're adding to your faith. So faith is getting them in their Bible.
Yeah.
Getting them into knowing how to find things in God's Word and telling Jesus thank you. Starting small, starting little, praying for help when you need it. That starts to build their faith. And you add to their faith goodness, which is like the story that I love from you about the shining stars. You're not shining.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You're not shining yet right now. And it's just
from
showing
Philippians
them
2:14.
Yeah, showing them the goodness that they have it on their own.
Yes.
They can find it. God will give it to them if you're praying for that for them. So the goodness that comes from that. The knowledge, what does the Bible say and why? So that's what mom's doing, is giving them Bible knowledge, but also why it says that. Not just God says it and that's how it is.
Yeah.
No, there are a lot of things that my kids have seen where, wow, Mom, that's why that verse is there.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you understand that.
And even prevalent right now is witchcraft.
Yes.
And crystals and all of those things. But there's verses that talk about it. In Isaiah, in Revelation, talk about sorcery and not doing it and turning away from those things. But explaining that to our kids. That's why we're not embracing right now, what the culture is saying, that these things are okay.
Right.
It's not okay with God. It does not honor God. But we show them that biblically it's also not okay. Not that we're just not saying that as moms.
Right. It's not coming out of my mouth. That's coming out of God's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whole list, it does seem big, but just take it a piece at a time, and then you can kind of find things to help your kids learn from each of those verses.
I also had Psalm 91. And those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. This is what I declare about the Lord. He alone is my refuge, my place of safety. He is my God, and I trust him. He will rescue you from every trap and protect you. He will cover you with his feathers and shelter you with his wings. His faithful promises are your armor and protection. So you're teaching your kids the word, but you're also teaching them that we trust God in each and every situation. I challenge you, I'm trying to do it right now, to memorize Psalm 91. 3 times this last weekend, I read it to different people that were going through something. Totally different things, all different. It was crazy. So I challenge you to memorize Psalm 91, because if we are teaching our kids to have a refuge, and if we are giving them a visual of us being covered in God's wings, it's like they would know that whatever they're going through, it's like liquid love going into their lives, into each and every situation.
Yeah.
But that's part of teaching them, because it's not just that we're teaching them and we're just in our home, like sitting in front of the fire on the couch, snuggled up. No. We're living. We're having certain things happen. We might be where someone's rude to us, or someone cuts us off, or we're at the hospital, or who knows what. But that is what it looks like to realize that we are resting in the shelter of the Almighty, but wherever we go. That's part of teaching them. Like, are we living that?
And Mom, even though your tasks may change for every season that you go through with your kids and in your family, the job ultimately never changes. You are to care and love.
Yes.
Always.
We said structure. That is going to look different for every family, obviously. But when you do have structure in your home, it creates more happy and healthy kids. It really does. Kids crave structure. It doesn't mean you need to be on a rigid schedule, but that could mean part of your rules. Like an example was, my daughter wanted to go somewhere a couple weeks ago, and my husband said, you can go to this certain place, but your mom's going with you. And she didn't like that idea, but it ended up that it was good that I was there. And that's just part of it. Like, you're under our roof. There are going to be some things that are our rules, or what we say goes. There might be a time we don't know what you do, but this is what we're going to say in this certain situation. And so what does that structure look like? Kids crave that. It shouldn't be that they're just allowed to, watch every movie or listen to every music. Structure is teaching them those daily tasks. Number one, that they're not so lazy. I mean, one of mine, maybe parents don't care about this so much, but I just told my kids, make your bed. Like I said, it makes up 80% of your room. And I thought it looked ugly if it wasn't made. It just looks ridiculous. So they don't make their bed perfect, but it's just getting it in their mind to care. Like, we're caring for them, but we're teaching them to care. And so I've noticed with my daughter certain things, like if we've gone somewhere, she'll notice that it might be someone does something differently than me, that she doesn't seem like it's a big deal when I'm there. Like, even with my mom there, it was so funny. She was like, Mom, Grandma just left some snacks on the counter instead of putting them in the pantry. And I'm like, okay. Like, if she don't want to put them in the pantry, whatever. But she's like, but we have them all in the pantry. And so it's not even realizing that some of the structure you've set up, either your kids would use it later, but it's also just helping them. Like, what are they going to do later? Their sense of responsibility, where they would take pride. I didn't do this for a little while. I need to bring it back. But each kid was in charge of a meal, like every 2 weeks or a couple times a month. But it was so cute. They were so proud of it. It was like that sense of responsibility of them taking care of their family, learning. You have girls, I have one, but boys can learn how to cook. Sebastian has one of his best friends is the best cook. Nice. He just is. And I don't know if that's just him or his mom's taught him, but great cook. But it gives him this, like, he had some of the buddies over right after graduation, and they were all so impressed because he did this whole spread.
Wow.
And it was just really neat. And so I thought, what a good kid, just so responsible. But that's what it shows when you've given them that responsibility. And cooking, sewing, could be guys, could be girls. I have a good friend, her husband does the sewing, but I don't know if he was taught or if he just learned, one of those guys that just picks up things, but now his daughter's good at sewing. So in a household, when you are giving your kids different tasks and responsibility, someone is picking up where someone else is lacking. But it also is that they realize they are a member of a household that takes care of each other.
Right.
And that starts from, what are you setting up as your role as the mom? Huge, right?
What seeds are you planting?
Yes.
What seeds are you planting that start that whole process rolling?
Okay, a couple of things we wanted to say that you are not. As your calling as a mother is not to be your kid's best friend. And there might be people listening to this that you really do want to be your kid's friend. That will come. I can't even tell you. There's a great friend that I've mentored. Her mom's like her best friend now. Other people that have graduated over that threshold of them thinking they know everything, or that certain relationship with their mom. And now, like, my sister-in-law is a great example where, her mother-in-law, or my mother-in-law, it was her best friend, but didn't have the best time in her teenage years. My relationship with my mom changed as I got older, and one of my best friends. And so that is not the case when your kids are growing up. You don't say yes to everything. You don't need to be dressing like them. You don't need to be talking like them. You don't need to be going to some of the same places. You can monitor where they go, or their friends coming over, things like that. But you're their mom, and they only have one, and they only have one dad. And that's it. That's what God gave them. So rest in that role. Be thankful for that role. There will be a time later, yes, that it will be that you are their mother and their friend, but you're not. And you're also not their ATM. You are their provider, yes. They might need new shoes, or you might go on a trip to the beach, which these days is still $200 to get there with gas and a picnic and all that. But no, you don't need to say yes to their every need, or what they say, or their every want even. No, that's not the case, and that's not what you're doing as a mom. Pray and ask God, Proverbs 1, 2, 3, Psalm 1 about wisdom, and that your family should be tithing and saving, and you're teaching that to your kids. So it might be, if they say, gosh, I don't have money for this, but can I do a couple of chores? Can you give me money to go to the whatever roller skating rink with my friends? Okay, you don't have to say no to everything, but you're not supposed to say yes to everything either.
Right.
It is okay. I mean, I did read in a parenting book, say yes when you can't say no. But as a parent, have wisdom. Know that you should not have kids that run all over you and that run the roost. That is not the point of your calling as a mother. But you have an important role. You have a holy role. And so find joy in the mundane. Find peace in the chaos. Look to God to be that you can have him be your focal point in things that seem like storms. And know that things that you are going through do not give God a headache, but that he is refining you in each and every one of the moments that make up your days, that make up your months, that make up your years, that make up your seasons. And we pray that each and every one of your seasons is blessed by God.
Yes. Your calling as a mother is something that only God's going to see from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, your prayer closet is important. Yes, your vacuuming is important. Yes, tying shoes, wiping faces,
Yes.
picking up Cheerios. It all makes a difference, even though we don't see it right now. But your calling, caring for those kids, is going to reap so much
Yes.
as they get older. And so just rest. I mean, like Laura said, just rest in this, rest in what you have been given, and God will add to it.
Yes. All right. See you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Share the show. And if you are someone that has been blessed by this show, we are so excited. And know that each and every day is a new opportunity to show that what God has given you, the gifts that he's given you, he will multiply those efforts of each and everything you do.